John, another couple of quotes from your book. The path to investing success is one of repetitive failure. Studying investments on which you or someone else has lost money is more likely to help you pick big winners because we learn more from doing things wrong than right. Can you talk more to that?
It was about 2004, and I was diagnosed with leukemia in 2004. And we'd been running Intelligent Investor for about 6 years. And it felt like to me a good time to get out. My life expectancy at the time was about 6 to 8 years, something like that. And we had 2 children, and I just wanted to spend that time with them. So that's when I got out. And we had a day. We're going to move to the North Coast, so we're going to go to Byron Shire like everybody else does. And we had a look at 14 different properties in one day. The first one we saw, we both got a very good feeling about it. It was a 2-acre block, remote, kind of idyllic, ocean views, really, really nice. The rest were kind of a little bit urbanized, suburban. And I said, well, let's go back on the way back to the airport. Let's go and have another look. And we ended up buying it. And because I was so desperate to get out, I suppose, I definitely overpaid. When we moved in, I hadn't done my due diligence properly. I hadn't checked what the neighbours were doing, whether there were any building plans or anything like that. And there was a block in front of us, and he had a plan to build a 2-story house. And I thought, oh my God, I'm so dumb. So dumb. Fancy not doing that. Here I am working in stocks and doing all the due diligence you can think of, and I'm spending $1.4 million, and I haven't even checked with council whether there were plans to sort of block the view. So I thought, this is kind of mad. And I kicked myself over it for months and months and months, maybe even years. Anyway, I split with my first wife, but she's thinking about selling the place now. It's been valued at $6 million. And, but I think that's the beauty of hanging on to something for so long and having that benefit of compounding, and it being, it's basically a tax haven. The owner-occupied homes are tax havens. And I felt terrible about this mistake for a couple of years, and I kicked myself for it. And I went into I just didn't trust myself. I stopped investing in shares for a couple of years as well. And that was a mistake too, because it was 2009 and coming up to the GFC, and that was, I could have bought a shitload of cheap stocks and missed out on that too. Yeah. So I think that had I had a willingness to be a little bit more gentle with myself, but actually go into the mechanics of why I made what seemed like a bad decision, because it was rushed, because I was stressed, because I had a health problem, I could have seen it been a bit easier on myself and just let time dig me out of that problem, which is what happened. So I think we all need a willingness to be able to not get anxious about our mistakes, but get curious about them. That's the mentality I think that we need to have in terms of analyzing our mistakes, is curiosity rather than blame. As you guys would know, I think most mistakes are psychological. In some ways with stocks, much like property, I think property in some ways is kind of easier. I don't know, like I'm not really a property investor, but it's easier to get a valuation on a property. It's easier to determine what the yield is. The management isn't going to change. And if it does, it's probably you, or it's going to be an agent, and they're going to do pretty much the same kind of job. Australia's population is going to carry on growing. Nobody's going to come along and invent a whole load of new land, so the competitive environment stays pretty much the same. The tax environment stays pretty much the same, so you haven't got the moving parts that you've got in stocks. The problem with a mistake in investing in shares is that there's it's usually not just one mistake. Maybe the competition changes, the management, it turns out to be dud, or they're corrupt, or there's some accounting shenanigans going on. There's all of these different factors that combine to cause a mistake. So I couldn't just talk about technical mistakes and psychological mistakes. I ended up with a structure where you talk about the effect. So what was we did sell. There were stocks that we should not have bought at all. There were stocks that we should have bought but didn't. There were stocks that we sold too late, and there were stocks we sold too soon. And the stocks we sold too soon do the most damage.
Oh, yeah, amazing.
But it's similar with property. Like if you do have those tailwinds of a growing population, reasonably stable sort of political environment, then you're probably going to do pretty well over time, as long as you buy at a reasonable price and just hang on through the difficult periods.
Yeah.
And it's the same with shares. You know, if you've got a good business, you need a pretty good argument to sell it.
Mm.
Yeah.
You should try and aim to hang on to it forever.